Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show. And Elizabeth, when's the last time you were on the show? It seems like it's been seasons, but it's just, I'm so glad that you're back.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be back with you. I was
I'm so
on with
glad that
Zoe, but it was, I missed you.
That's right. I was traveling during the time she filled in for me. Oh, how
It
amazing.
was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And we're speaking to you are on sacred land right now in Ecuador.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the sacred land and what you've been receiving there. And then I'll get a little bit more into your intro. Y'all, this is so special to be receiving this frequency, not just from Elizabeth, but also from the majesty on where she's transmitting from. It's that by itself, it's an attunement. So
Well,
what's
it's
happening
good
in
stuff.
Ecuador? Yeah.
It's juicy. It's special here. So I have two things to transmit from the land. The little town that I am established in right this very second is called Vilcabamba, and there is a 88 vortex here. And this means that there is a magnifying of density and a magnifying of light. And when you show up, it comes in with such clarity. So if you're ready for that big shift to balance whatever you need to balance out, if you're prepared for that, that's on the table, that is available. The planet has created it. But then secondarily, there is a place here, it's a little valley called Yangana, and it's where the Andes goes east and west instead of north and south. It's the only spot where it does this. And there's a very special valley there which maintains a very beautiful feminine quality. It's white light, and the energy there, I've actually brought many guests who've come to visit me to this land, and every single one of them start to cry when they come. Wow. Because there is so much light and it's so pure. Even those who aren't necessarily very psychic can see it. And it's multidimensional. The energy also is of a great reverence and a pristine sort of resurrection energy, because this particular valley survived the last ice age. So there's flora and fauna there that are preserved, and it's extremely powerful and wild, and certainly not to be underestimated. There's incredible illusion of light there because of the multiple dimensions, but there's gateways of power, and there's a relationship that the earth wants to bring through that says, I love you and I want your attention. I want you to hear me. I want you to feed me with your love, with your scraps, and with your presence. And I want to feed you. And on this beautiful land is the most abundant and powerful food and prana that you could have ever dreamed of. And the water is crystal clear. It's some of the best water in the world. And you can literally find big crystals there, John, that are clear quartz points with rainbows in them. And just extraordinary place. So very happy to channel that, because I've been eating the food off the land and bring it through, because it's literally in my body. And
well, and I can feel the transmission coming through as you describe it. That's why I wanted to start the call with the acclamation to the energy that you're bringing us into by being who you are, and then being in another pristine state in the land that's supporting you in this way. So it's so remarkable. And thank you for describing what's coming in for you. What I want to do now, for anybody who's new to Elizabeth, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her, and I'm going to read off her bio just for reference point. And it's so much more than that, what can be put into words. But like this transmission about the land and what Elizabeth is having relationship with and growing an intimacy with, that transmission is really at the core of the essence of what's facilitating these shifts into this new way of being human, which our topic's going to be about, and which we're going to take live calls for also. So if you guys want to ask Elizabeth your questions, take this opportunity. Most of y'all know how to ask your question on the chat box, but you can raise your hand, you can type your question into the chat box, and we're going to dive in here. So again, a little bit more about Elizabeth. She's considered an advanced seer. and she works on the cutting edge of galactic and quantum anthropology, trauma healing, and futurism. And with her lifelong ability to see into and work with all dimensions, her theoretical and psychic work has helped people all over the world. She's called the living library and oracle, and Elizabeth spent her whole life studying anthropological theory, quantum physics, ancient and modern medicine. She has 2 science degrees, including a master's in applied anthropology, and her philosophies and practices bridge science and spirituality to support real change in the real world. And Elizabeth, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for being here. So again, you talked about the land, and again, I felt the energy and the resonance and an upliftment from that. What is happening in our wiring and in the way that we're transforming in our bodies, adjusting that we're become so sensitized to the energies in this way? And again, this is a big aspect of this new way of being human.
Well, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought up the word wiring. I'm going to use my personal experience on this because that's what I've got, because we're at the edge together. Everyone's at the edge of consciousness. And there is many ancient ways and many new ways we're going to all work with, but at the very moment, we're fried. My wiring's been totally fried, man, and it's been crazy. And I've been psychically looking at my wiring, and it literally looks like it's burned and rusty, right? And so I have like a meridian that I was working with, my bladder and kidney meridian, and it was just wasn't working at all. And I realized, well, hang on a second, I have the ability to rewire this. And so I intentionally, very carefully, and very simply reimagined a new wire. But I was guided to do something kind of cool. And I decided that I wanted to make the wire out of something that is very ancient, that we know a lot about, but also has qualities of newness that are coming through. And this is the physical reality of it, but it's also the metaphor. And I decided to make the wire gold with a casing of silver and then another casing of platinum. And these 3 specific precious metals have very special power to heal the human body. They protect DNA, these 3 specific metals. This is why they're called precious metals. It's not just because they're worth money. That's not even tertiary. It's because it can literally preserve and heal DNA. And so I went from the bottom up and rewired this whole meridian and got the pulse started. In fact, it rebalanced my whole body so much that it was a bit disorienting to have that much energy run through my body again and not realizing how fried it had been. And so this is the metaphor. What's happening now is you're being gifted literally sort of from the top down. Now, anybody who's watched me talk with John over the years, we've had a few times where the energy was coming up, and I could track it and be like, oh, it's at my nose now. It was pretty silly, but the energy would come up from the earth. And this time it's coming down. And so it's about here now, energetically. And this is where the sort of clarity is popping in at the moment for people. And this blinding clarity that mystics and light workers all across the world have been talking about, this blinding clarity for so long. And so now it's here. But why is it coming down? Well, this is the really interesting part. We're going through a 12,000 year cycle. It's the age to end all ages. In the cycle of Sanskrit, we're at the end of the Kali Yuga, which is good news. It's really hard to do this, the end of the most difficult age of destruction. It's really hard to move from that into the new set of cycles, which will literally be heavenly as we go into them. That's what we might call the golden gate to the time of light for humanity. And we have some work to do. We're at the transition point here, and I want to help you through that the best that I can. And I've seen it from a galactic point of view. I remember all of these things, so I understand how challenging it is, but we have it even more so because we have a lot more players involved, and we have a lot more going on galactically than we ever did, and we have a lot more people on this planet than we ever did. So here we have this chance to take this cycle, but what's physically happening? That's an esoteric way to understand what this 12,000 year cycle is. The physical scientific viewpoint of it is that we're going through a galactic current sheet cycle. So the center of our galaxy has the most wonderful, amazing black hole that no one should be afraid of. They're amazing. They literally create types of matter that you can't even imagine. But this black hole has a big arm, and it comes around every 12,000 years. It pushes lots of plasma and particles and ions with it. It starts setting off the suns, and they do their little mini nova dances, and they like to shed some energy. And this affects and warms up all these different solar systems that this arm hits. Well, it just hit our nearest neighbors. It's on its way. It's pretty much coming at the moment you're feeling it. This is what this top down is. And meanwhile, it causes the Earth, her electromagnetic field, to go internal. They call it an electromagnetic excursion. It's actually an internalization because the Earth is actualizing something new. And in esoteric terms, this means she's got a gift for you. And boy, this is nothing any of us have ever experienced. This gift is the opening of what some people in consciousness call the ninth dimension. It is pure unconditional love. Now, if you know what that really means, then you know how serious it is. That nothing in our consciousness that is divided, nothing that is divisive, nothing at war, nothing that is out of balance can handle maintaining consciousness in this field. So that means that we need to end any inner war. If you want the outer war to end, you have to end your inner war. And it has to happen through love. Love's the container. Love is literally the library that holds all the books of consciousness. There is no book in the library called love. The whole library is love. That's the container for this universe. That's what's on the table. So the Earth is actualizing it. She has created it. She's acclimated to it. She's integrated it. Now she's actualizing. This is another really and more refined version of manifesting. And so this manifestation is top down because she's internalized for this actualization. And now we have new cool wavelengths from space, basically, that are coming, and many beings who are really enjoying this excursion, because this means they can walk on the Earth now, and they weren't able to before. It creates a shield normally that's there for many different factors. And in this case, it's not that the shield is gone, because as you know, love is actually the best shield you can have. It's that she's actualizing something, and we're along for it. And so all these beings have worked really hard to incarnate during this time. That's why there's so many people. And all these beings, they're here for this. You're here for this. You decided to show up for the biggest party, the biggest actualization that's ever happened, not in just this particular solar system, but in the whole galaxy, in the galactic history. This is the coolest, most important event. Everybody's here for it, but it's going to do some pretty wild stuff to our consciousness. It already is. and it's doing even weirder stuff to the body. And that's why, we've been fried, because we've been living through the Kali Yuga. But then the manifesting of the creator being that you are kicks in, because it has to. It's the nature of being human. And we get this moment of, well, hang on a second, I can rewire myself. Hang on a second, I can change my DNA. Hey, wait a minute. I could be something totally new, just like the earth. I could do this. And that's the simple little mindset shift that's happening to so many people, and activating that chance that they came for in the first place.
I love that you talk about the Kali Yuga and the black hole and the arm of the black hole also, because in physics there's also a term called, oh my God, I just had it and I lost it. Chaos theory. And in chaos theory, it's the particles that go chaotic before it enters or has relationship with the black hole. So with everything that you're describing in the swing of the black hole and entering into a sphere where it's affecting us, it makes sense that we as particles, vibrational particles, are affected by getting that close into the reorganization through the black hole.
Mm-hmm.
So
and this brings up a really cool other physics term called panpsychism. Because that black hole, all the little particles, and they're dancing. I love chaos theory because the psychic vision I get of it is all these particles dancing, and they are. And all these particles in you are dancing. They're really interested in this new energy. They want to hang out with it. And you can feel it if you sit with it. But then you start to realize, whoa, I'm made of all these particles, but I thought this was me. Yet they have their own consciousness. Well, that's what's so cool about human consciousness. And panpsychism says all those particles are conscious. All the particles that make up my cup or my body or my computer are conscious. But what we understand to finally get it to a point where it can make sense in a practical way is that your spirit, your soul, your consciousness is literally so interesting and so attractive to all these particles that they decided to work with you. And they love you so much that they want to make this body. Every second, it is remade 1 trillion times by your consciousness alone. I look like Elizabeth because my Elizabeth consciousness is causing these particles to look like Elizabeth. And that happens for all objects and all living things. So a plant looks like a plant, not because of its genetics, folks. A plant looks like a plant because it has a spirit in which the shape is being expressed through the particles that are interested in that spirit. This is a multidimensional process. It's literally ancient and understandable. Even Thomas Aquinas wrote about this. He was very psychic and he understood this was true. And this is also why the deeper work you do, the brighter you get. People literally come up to me and say, or other people that do inner work, hey, you look like bright today. Like there's light coming out of your body. And I've watched people achieve this. And the more, and I feel it, I can feel it. I can feel that it's literally moving through because there's less and less and less of my personal self keeping it in a distorted pattern. But this is the cool part about all of these things and how they factor in. You are not basically an island at whatsoever at this point. Now that wave is coming in and you can dance with it. You can take pieces of what that black hole and the galactic current sheet and the earthly current sheet, the energy of the sun, the energy coming from the massive Laniakea structure in which our galaxy is in, all of these things are available to you. And all you have to do is put your awareness on it. You don't need to know about the scientific stuff behind it if you're not really interested. But if you're interested in the energy, put your awareness on these things, allow them into your consciousness, you can make these things smaller or bigger in your life however you intend. But if you're intending what I'm intending for this light and these qualities to change me so fully and so deeply that I become something entirely new. And we like to use this term homo luminous. I'm not the only one who uses this. In fact, it's one of those really interesting trackable events where this concept happened to be available all at once, all over the world, with many, many, many mystics. And I happened to think of this term and I thought I made it up. And then all these other folks came on with other information, and it was like, oh no, this is even better than me making it up. It's available in consciousness.
Yeah. So interesting. So how does, again, with the shifts that are occurring, again, it's really an organic unfoldment that's happening through this Kali Yuga. And to get back into the conversation of our wiring being burnt out, how can someone who's listening right now calibrate into the new wiring, calibrate into restoring, repairing, and upgrading so that it can be in resonance with the harmonics and the frequencies that they're attuning to?
Absolutely. And it's so much simpler than it seems. It sounds complicated to sit and imagine a whole meridian being rewired. If you don't have the energy or time to do that, if you're bombarded by constant pickup from all over the place, how are you going to be able to manage? First, you need to intend. And intention is constant. It's something that kind of frames your life. And I like to do that by simply starting my day with an intention. And for me, it's been the same. I intend to literally become the light. That's what the concept of homo luminous is. It's the human of light. I intend to become the light. And you're going to get deeper and deeper into that statement. That's how beautiful this is. It's very simple, but that statement is very profound. Many, many, many people have sought out the true meaning of that statement. And so when you intend it, it goes beyond your mind. And that's key, because our minds are being overrun by technology, by information, by division, especially now. So we have this chance to intend something new that's actually going to benefit all consciousness, no matter what. The second thing is you really need to meditate. I'm not really sure exactly how you need to meditate because I'm like a terrible meditator. But I love to do gazing, which is open eye meditation. And I've finally learned how to do closed-eyed properly. And it's taken me months and months, years and years to learn how to do this. But meditating, what the purpose is to stop your thoughts. And when you can stop your thoughts, there's this expansiveness that occurs. And so this expansiveness moves out from your whole body, and you start to feel all reality. And you want to let those boundaries keep getting pushed a little bit every day, not to the edge of the universe in one sitting. Don't try to do that. That's too much. That'll fry your brain too. So sit and just allow your edge of consciousness to get a little bigger every day. You ought to be gentle about this process. It took a whole lot of energy to fry you. And it's going to take baby steps and a little bit of energy at a time to rewire you. The third thing you need to do is process all of your emotions. Now, this is what we might call stilling the emotional body. And it's a very straightforward way to do that. You need to notice when you react. This is becoming the observer, right? So many people talk about this in many ways. It's very simple. Become the observer. Observe yourself. Be in self-inquiry. And when you're in self-inquiry, you're saying, well, when they said this one thing, I reacted this way. That's interesting. That's self-inquiry. Be curious about how you react to what's happening to you and around you and to other people all over the world and the whole galaxy. Notice when something causes you to either judge or resist, or an expectation or a program or a trauma pops up. But you need to notice it first, and then you need to feel it. We tend to run away from these uncomfortable feelings because they physically literally don't feel good. But it's actually your body trying to say, look at this structure I'm holding for you. I'm trying to help you get through this crazy sick mess, and I need you to notice this. So bam, you get a reaction. Notice where it is in your body. It can be anywhere. I've had reactions where I'm like, why are my ears hot? And we're like, oh, this is weird. So notice it. No, it's all over the place. The emotional body is wired in every little cell. And so we just notice it and don't resist it. Go into it. You're in inquiry. So we inquire, okay, how does this feel? Oh, it feels like it feels like here, like I can't talk. It feels like here, I just feel so much pain here. The next step is to welcome it. This is the thing that no one wants to do. You are on a path, there's a giant waterfall of discomfort, of pain, of suffering. You avoid it, but you try to go around all these different ways and it's not going to work. You got to go through it. And people, they don't want to go through it. I don't blame them. It's not very pleasant at all. And there's nothing wrong with sitting and denying yourself that opportunity to go through it. It's resistance. That's normal. You're learning from being in resistance. And so we never ever shame ourselves for what we really feel. We need to acknowledge and welcome these things. But the shortcut, folks, is if you go through that waterfall, and at that very moment where you say, I can't take it anymore, you're actually right at the end. So keep going, because there's going to be this release and it's physical. Suddenly the structure leaves. Suddenly your throat opens. It's very sudden. And it feels like this huge expansion of light and consciousness. And then you're like, wow, oh, I want to do that again. And then you keep doing it until your consciousness sees a waterfall and says, let's go for it, because I know how good it's going to be on the other side. So you got to keep trying to welcome this stuff. And you don't have to relive your trauma to welcome it. You need to understand the frequency of the trauma. That's what's happening. That's the density. It's consciousness under pressure in your body. So as you remove more and more of these structures, you're actually removing it from your DNA. That big rush of opening is literally the house of your body getting bigger, because you just moved a whole bunch of dense energy, some trauma trash bags out of there. Now it's much more clear, but something has to come and replace it. And what comes to replace it is your soul. And the more and more you do this, the more you will remember who you are. And that is literally the most vital thing. I told you that there are really ancient things that are coming to play. And I am talking about indigenous knowledge, but I'm also talking about your galactic memory, because you need to remember who you are more now than ever. It's time now for you to be the commander, the healer, the presence, the sovereign that you are. And then we'll get to do some new stuff, because you'll have both. You'll have your body full of light, you'll be homoluminous, and you'll remember. And that's what it looks like to be homoluminous, to be fully in remembrance of your whole trajectory, way beyond this galaxy, and know why you're here and who you are. That's what it's like. And I can guarantee it will happen, because it's happening to me more every day, and it's getting really, really weird and cool.
And it all starts with that intention. That's the impetus. It really is. And so even learning how to begin with the intention and letting that unfold without forcing an outcome, again, it'll just it will guide you to yourself. It will guide you. And that's really where the innocence, and again, not needing to have the structures or the scientific background or the esoteric history or what's happening there now during the 12,000 year cycle. It's fascinating and it's very relevant, but that's not the foundation we need. The foundation is the innocence and the intention, putting the command into motion.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah. Innocence is key. Innocence is the ability to perceive something and say, not only do I know nothing, but I am the whole universe. And so this thing that I'm looking at is me.
Yeah.
And how does that feel when I say, this is me? And I really mean it. And go ahead and start with pleasant and happy things. Go ahead and start with light and formless things. The other half of the universe isn't like that. It's pretty dense. But when you look at this dense stuff and you say, this is me, this is the power of mysticism. And you can go in and knowing, because you've been experimenting in your consciousness with this, with these ideas, you can really look at something and say, what is the frequency? How is it showing up in my body? What are my reactions, triggers, and trauma around this? And once that's clear to you, you can merge with it, the frequency of it, right? So we're not like allowing strange things into our body. We're just merging with a frequency. It's the frequency is what's full of the knowledge and the wisdom. But the only way you can do that is by saying and believing and understanding that you know nothing. The personal self doesn't know anything. It's innocent. The universal self is the knower. And even then, knowing isn't even necessarily terribly that interesting to the universal self, because it already knows everything.
Right.
So there's this moment where we have to let go of what we think we know. And it's really, really hard to do. But honestly, having been in the university academia world for about 15 straight years, when I finally got my master's degree, I sat down at the dinner table with all my teachers, and I had annoyed the crap out of them for 7 straight years, thinking I knew everything. And I ended up doing some really great things in academia. But when I sat down to that dinner table, I bowed to my teachers and I said, thank you. What I finally understand is that I know nothing. And they all celebrated me and said, good, excellent. That's why we gave you your master's degree finally.
Now you can start, right?
Now you can start. You did it. I was like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah, we know nothing. I'm like, really? Because I think you know so much. No, we know nothing.
Yeah,
like,
so much knowing comes. Well, that's really the virtue of a true master. You get to that level of mastery, and then the coat that comes off of that is like, I know nothing. And that's really the master is the one that realizes that. And it goes back to right to where it started, into a different awareness of where it started from.
Exactly.
To begin again. It's so paradoxical and so beautiful and exciting at the same time.
That was the beginning of my spiritual path.
Yeah. Amazing. And it's really interesting also because talking about the emotions coming through, and again, the energies that we're riding through with the astrological events and with the solstices that we've been going through and these portals that have been activated. I want to talk about the solstice that's coming up in December, because that's a big one. But I want to end the conversation, or I'll go a little bit deeper in the conversation on the emotional aspect. Is the body attuning to the emotions? Because as young people, as children, we are taught to stop the emotions at certain part of our bodies because our parents try to coddle us, or it feels uncomfortable for them. So it doesn't get a chance to process all the way through. And so our sexuality, our rage, our love has, for most of us, has only gotten to a certain threshold of its capacity because of our environmental influencing. And so the importance of letting it, I'll call it flush through our body completely. It's, for me, it's when I realized that and I allowed the rage and the love in the biggest capacity that I could at the moment flow through me, not causing others harm or projecting onto others, but through my awareness of what was the current that was running through, and allowing myself the experience with myself. Those created some of the biggest shifts that changed, cut out patterns that I'm not capable of getting back into in density. And it also eliminated fears. The fear as a man that I could kill someone if I got so ragey or angry or whatever. It's not even a consideration. It's silly. It's like, it doesn't exist. The fear that I'm going to be engulfed or overtaken by so much love, it's something that we attune to every day because we're always expanding into that energy. But it's not a fear now that runs from a denser energy. It's more of, we'll call it a fear, but an anticipation of something new. And it changes the game.
It's so raw and so vulnerable. And it shows, John.
Yeah.
It shows. It shows that willingness. And that's where it's willingness is like best buddies with intent. And you might intend something, but you need the willingness to get the ball rolling. And when you're willing to face off with rage, man, that's a dense waterfall of power. But I like how you call it like flushing it through, because that's exactly what happens. It seems to come in at all angles and you're bombarded by it, and all the cells feel it. And there's if you slow the process down all the way, that's exactly what's happening. All of your cells are feeling it. Why? Because they have their little blueprint of your soul, and they're trying to work with that. But I want to be clear here that there's two delineations of being human. Some people call the soul's history the Akashic records. I just call it the soul's history because the soul has a trajectory. And then there's the physical memory, and that's the power of this particular tech that we're using, is that it has a very special epigenetic memory. And when we allow this flush to happen, this waterfall to move through all these cells, it lays out the blueprint of the DNA, and it says, all right, well, they're going through this rage piece. If this is like this slowed down, John's going through this rage piece. We need to pick up all the rage in this DNA epigenetic memory, this house. And there's maybe, let's say, 1 trillion trash bags. For real, that's how many trash bags are in there of just rage. So there's zillions and zillions, right? Because there was millions of people that came before John, from which he inherited all these trash bags. And 90% of your trauma is not yours. It's all here. So when we do this, the flush is all of your trauma, but it's also the rage of all the masculine that came before you. It's all the fear of all of your grandmothers, all the way back to the beginning of this experiment here. This is what we're flushing, folks. This is why this inner work is so key. And then the soul gets to come in and replace these trash bags because of physics. You have to replace it with something. And the soul's memory does that. It comes in, and if you intend it to be so, it happens faster. And that's the key word here. That's the key process. Intend it to be so, and it will happen faster. I intend to merge with this frequency so fully that the rage is dissolved and the wisdom is understood by my soul and my body. That's what happens.
Let me ask you this, because again, the intention, and again, a lot of us get stuck in the action taking ability and the willingness. And what's something that you can share with the audience that can help provide that momentum from that inertia.
Yeah. I've worked with many tens of thousands of people. And as I'm looking at all of them over time and with this question, I'm describing a seeing I'm having here. I see all these souls. And that's what I see first when I look at somebody. I have that beautiful gift, such a gift. It used to scare me, but it's truly a gift to be able to see someone's soul, and everything else around that is secondary. And what really motivates people is a yearning to go home.
Mm.
That has been like the number one thing I've heard the most. I just want to go home. And
Wow.
they'll come up with all these different constructs around them about why they're not home. And they'll say, well, I'm not home because I'm human, or I'm not home because I am incarnated into this horrible family. Or if you don't believe in incarnation, I'm not home because I don't really feel the love of God.
Mm-hmm.
I feel abandoned. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm mad at my own soul because I got put here. I'm pissed. And this is something that they're created in order to make sense of where they're at, because they woke up in a body full of trauma trash bags. I mean, imagine just waking up randomly in a house full of trash bags and you can't even see the door. There's no clarity from the windows. There's no light. And, you finally get used to it. You get used to the dark and you're like, where in the heck am I? That's exactly what being born human looks like at the moment. And so no wonder everyone's confused, because they already are home. It's just that the home needs your help.
Yeah.
And when you're aware of that, you begin to work on this piece of self-inquiry. That is the tool. That's the umbrella level consciousness that kicks in. So then people will say, well, hang on a second. I really do want to heal from my trauma. And then they'll work on it. And then they get to the edge of it and they're like, why am I still so traumatized? I worked on my trauma. And I remind them, well, because most of it's not yours. Now it's now you're kicked in as the cleanup crew of consciousness. That's why you're here. So they start doing that. And then this really cool thing happens. This is really a trip, because this gives you more motivation than ever. Once you start cleaning up all the genetic trauma, you end up seeing this light on the other side of the room, and it gets a little brighter every time you work on more trash bags, and brighter and brighter. You're like, what is that? And then you're like, ooh, that's really pretty. I really like that. It feels really, really good to look at that. It feels good to be part of that. Well, that's your soul, honey. That's you. You're looking at yourself. I've literally had this event happen where I'm looking at myself and I'm like, all I see is light.
Yeah.
I am so amazed by this light. I love this so much. And then it was so clear. Wait a minute, this is me. I'm looking at myself. It's such a strange feeling, but then it takes over. And then there's this sense of not doing anymore, but being home. You never left. Now it's time to be home. And when you are fully comfortable in this human embodiment and in this knowledge that you are home, that you created this for the act of being present and home in this universe, so that you could learn and strengthen your own will as a soul to do so, then the sort of ride gets more gentle, because you ride the wave. You don't get bombarded by it anymore. And then you ride the wave to solstice, which is what's happening and why everyone's feeling tumbled about more than ever. But that's what I see as the greatest motivator, is to be home.
Oh, it's wonderful. That's just so touching. And yeah, it that hits home when you speak about that. Pun totally intended, because it's resonant. It's so wonderful. Elizabeth, we have to get into your special offer. We're going to take live calls, but we have to get into what to expect in the solstice. Like what you're seeing is really coming up for us in this, and as we move into 2022. I can't have you on the
Yes.
show and not have you share that.
Yeah, thank you. There's a harmonic convergence coming, and there are many waves. We talked about a wave from the center of our beautiful galaxy, from the black hole. There are waves from the earth. There's waves from the sun. There are waves of consciousness from humanity and all of the living beings here. And these waves are becoming more and more powerful, and they're crossing each other. So unlike any other time in history, we have cross waves now. Usually it used to go like one direction, and it'd be a lot. And we'd go through like one or two big waves between solstices. Not this year. This year it's been like every single day, a new wave, and there's cross waves. So you feel extra nuts and extra bombarded. And then activity from the galaxy and the sun are happening too. So that's why you feel fried, folks. It's absolutely pushing you to evolve. Human beings are built for adaptation, but we mainly evolve and adapt when it gets extra difficult. The earth knows this. So here we are, we've got many thousands of different cross waves happening all at once. And they're going like this. There's this energy of getting thrown around. If anybody's been in a really wild sea, then you know what that's like. Now, what happens with these harmonic convergences is that at solstice, a lot of things are going to align. Many gateways will open all the way to the edge of the universe. They're opening right now. Gateways that I can't describe to you very well because physics and astronomy and cosmology can't describe it. And that's the main language I use to talk to you. But I'm transmitting this visual to you. There are gateways that have never opened together before, all opening together now. It's time. There is divine timing. It's inevitable. It's inevitable that you are going through this change. And so all these gateways open at the December solstice, and the harmonic convergence causes the waves to begin to rise and fall as one instead of this cross wave effect. This is going to cause this huge, massive opening of power and light, energy, and every word that you can think of. And I can't even describe it to you because we've never experienced this before, not in this galaxy, perhaps not even in this universe. That, and I really mean it, that there's nothing like this before. No wonder no one knows what the heck's going on. Go in with a beginner's mind. Be willing to say, I know nothing. I'm willing to become this light. It's new. So it's time to become it. I have no idea what will happen. That's the great part. I really don't know. And no one does. No one knows. What we know, though, is in our heart, and because we're wired for it, that it's time for the greatest adaptation we've ever had on this planet. And you're going to be something new if you really want it. Become the light. Be in self-inquiry. Work on these pieces here as we move towards this. And you will be able to take advantage of it and become homo luminous.
So beautiful. And I love the way that you're describing it and your awareness of what's taking effect. I've had visions in lucid dreams of these massive pyramids erupting from the earth as part of what the earth is providing as part of that harmonic with the rest of the universe. So the satellites from those pyramids and what they're bringing here for us, how we're transforming in the relationship that we're having with the grids and the energetics that are being lit up from those. It's profound. And so I love the way that you're explaining it, and it's a vision, and it's foretelling something within my scope. And I'm wondering what everybody on this call, what those visions may look like for you. They can be, you can think it's mundane, But if it's in an octave that's like where you don't know and something's transforming and it feels big, it's not mundane. It's all part of what we came here collectively to amplify. And you're given, if you will, glimpses into a precognition of something that we don't know yet. So it comes without a knowing, but an awareness of a shift.
Good way to say it. Yeah.
And so it's fascinating. So not to get caught up in the mind needing to have the plan laid out. It's so important because that's what's causing the suffering, and that's what causes a lot of the anxiousness and the anxious anticipation rather than the excited anticipation. Which again, it's just, I'm so glad that you're on today, and it's with the energies and with the trends of emotions that have been running through, because it helps to calm and bring substance to again, this great mystery that we're on. So this is so wonderful. Everybody on the call, you have the opportunity to go deeper with Elizabeth and really seeing yourself, owning yourself, claiming yourself as a being, becoming homo luminous and being homo luminous. And that's what the special offer is. So I love this package. I love what you've put together here, and I love the way in which you share it, because it's so applicable. And again, the transmissions, just being on the call with you, already start taking effect. So everybody, the link for the special offer, it's in the chat box. Click on the chat box button. You'll see it highlighted in blue. It's probably in there a couple of times. If you can't find it, just go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Elizabeth26 and open you to the same page as that link. And Elizabeth, share with us what we're going to be having a relationship with as we dive into becoming homo luminous with you.
I'm so glad. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really wanted to pack this in. And what I'm going to say to you may be like really surprising, that I put this on the table for you. And the first thing I'm offering is what are called the 94 ancient templates of wisdom. And about a decade ago, I realized one of the legacies of my soul's memory is that I understand and was present with the beginning of this consciousness experiment here. And one of the gifts is that we were given wisdom from our galactic ancestry because of two reasons. They didn't want to remember the terrible and very dark and very sad galactic history that they'd been through. They wanted to forget that. They were traumatized. But also, they didn't want to start out with DNA that didn't have any knowledge or wisdom at all. So all these many trillions of beings got together and said, what are the common sort of aspects of wisdom? If you really distill down what you experienced, if you were to incarnate into a vacation body on Gaia, what would you want to know about? So that you don't have to like relearn everything. Well, everybody went to their prospective groups, everybody from many dimensions, and they all came up with these templates of wisdom, and they compared them all, and they found that there were 90 that were the same. So they used those, and the last 4 are not even in the body. They're in your esoteric memory, and it's the template of formlessness, timelessness, the universe containing all things, and the void. Those are universal wisdom templates, which is why they don't exist in the body. They come through from your soul. You know what those are. Well, I taught these 94 classes about a decade ago, and I thought it was so that we could use them and have fun with them. I was wrong. It's so cool. It's so weird. But it's actually so you can erase them, folks.
Wow.
Erase the foundation from which the experiment was built on. Erase it and ask for the universal wisdom, the primordial wisdom of that same frequency to come in and replace it. I've been practicing and experimenting on myself, and others have been practicing and experimenting on themselves, and the outcome is astounding. Give it a try. You have 94 classes to listen to. That's just the start. And they're going to help you. And when you listen, you feel it, you acknowledge it, you welcome it, and then you dissolve it and replace it with the universal knowledge that your soul has. This is super powerful, and I never imagined in a million years this is exactly what we'd be using this for ever. I swear I would have never even thought of it.
Amazing. 94 templates. How long are these templates? What do we do with them? That's so fascinating.
So what you're going to do is listen to these. They're about half an hour long each, and they're a teaching, and you'll have to forgive me. I was in my late 20s, and there's a lot more ego in these audios. But listen to what I am saying and how I describe these things, and then feel it in your body. And when you feel it, you'll feel a very specific frequency in your body. It'll be in a very specific spot. I described some possible spots that they could arise in these classes. And then when you're done listening to it, sit with intent and willingness and ask. So I like to use a heart command. So we'll say the template of oneness, right? So we might say, dear heart, please fully erase the template of wisdom around oneness and replace it with the universal wisdom of oneness now. And then you take a big deep breath. And that's the command you need to be doing with your body, because you use the heart field to do it. And people, even though I've done this, I still feel the immensity of it. And people report some pretty extraordinary shifts happening and how different the universal version of that template feels. And the templates are all very, very different. There's, a template for awakening. There's a template for pain. There's a template for speech, and there's one for singing. There's a template for fire. There's a template for stone. There's all sorts of different kinds of templates that would help you to navigate this experiment here on Earth. And so when you look at them, it'll make sense why those 94 seem so important. But the cool part too is when you get to the last 4, you don't need to erase those. You could if you'd like to and replace them with the universal piece. But I fathom you'll probably feel the same about them because they're already there. But when you listen to those, use those as a good framework for consciousness, because each of those gives you a clue of the more universal nature of what the universal primordial energies of the more ancient and better templates, the universal templates are. And so that'll be really fun for people to play with. It's a good way to process if you're not necessarily getting triggered all the time. Allow yourself to work with these, and that'll help a lot.
Amazing. Again, this is only the first item from the package. So we're going to continue. So from there, we get into navigating the dimensions of consciousness, and there's 2 parts to it.
Yes. So I really love consciousness, and it's my greatest love. And I love to help you I like to give you roadmaps to be able to move through that. So the first class, I basically help you to understand how each of these dimensions of consciousness work. And then the second class, I show you what kinds of beautiful things and pitfalls of consciousness that you'll find in each of them. So I get a lot of different questions from people, and they'll say, well, all these really weird things started happening to me after I started doing healing of my trauma, and now I feel really strange and I'm not sure where I am. That's a little clue that you're in a different dimension of consciousness. And when you're there, you acclimate to it, and there might be big problems, like big dissonant issues that you've got to face. Like, why does God let bad things happen to good people? That's the 7th dimension. That's one of the pitfalls of the 7th dimension. Well, I explained to you how these work and how to get out of them, because you can, and how you can use these dimensions, which are actually circular, and they all feed into one another. how you can use them to understand and navigate reality in a more full way. It's one of the very favorite classes I've ever taught. And I hope that you'll really enjoy this and take it and listen to it a lot, because it'll give you a clue about where you're at and what's the next step for you to be continuing forward into merging with all of them all at once, which is your ability and legacy as a human to be able to do.
Beautiful. And okay, that's item 2. Item 3, we get into dissolving cultural conditioning, parts 1 and 2.
Yeah, so I realized at one point, John, that people were running all these programs. And when I'd say, well, where'd you learn this program? It's always culture. And culture can include your family structure or your society in general, but there's layers to this. And how do you even identify any of this? Like when you're getting mad at your partner, or there's some issue with your kid or your dog, what do you do? How do you even notice that it's a program or a conditioning that, hey, when my dog does this, I need to yell at them? Or when my kid does this, I need to do this one thing, like how you described, like how our parents would bring us closer or farther away, depending on their own conditioning.
Right.
Well, this is sort of the end of the cycle of all of this. And so many of you really resonate with, hey, I'm the end of this terrible cycle of bad stuff in my family. Well, be the end of the cycle for your own culture. And I'll show you how. It's very deep. And I get you started with some basic concepts and ways to work with this, very practical at first. And then we go really deep into cultural concepts in the second one, so you can yank this stuff up from the roots and be finished faster. And at the same time, having a gentle way to move through it spiritually. So it is very much an exercise of science and spirituality in this case, because I'm teaching you anthropological theories in an esoteric but practical way, so you can apply it.
Amazing. I mean, oh, I love the way you're describing this. It's so exciting. So we got cultural conditioning, and then we go into the body oracle, finding answers inside yourself.
So this is a crazy technique, and just a very short background on this. I developed working predictive models when I was in academia, and they were so useful and actually worked so well that they were dangerous. So I couldn't teach them. I taught them a little bit, but because my teachers allowed me to, in order to learn more about how they worked. But we all realized towards the end, this can't be taught. Otherwise, people could use this to manipulate others. And so I put it in a box for over a decade and have not discussed it nor taught it again. And it was very painful to do that. But later, as I became a mystic and studied mysticism with a teacher and a lineage, I realized that there were teachings that we would call discernment. And I wanted to understand how to really help people do discernment. It's such a powerful skill, and yet very esoteric and not taught terribly practically. But when I applied these two things together as one technique, it ended up working really, really well. So I'm going to teach you in this class how to, and there's a worksheet to use as well that'll help a lot, how to discern with your whole entire body and be able to make big steps and changes in your life that will actually hold, because you're going to use the anthropological theory about humanity and culture and change, as well as the esoteric ability to discern all in one. And this is something very interesting and unique. So give it a shot. If you're really tired of not knowing, and you end up having to ask outside sources for anything like that, be willing to try something a little new where you get the opportunity to be the one who knows.
Wonderful. That's so exciting. And we're still not done. We still keep going. We get now into quantum healing for infectious diseases, which is the fifth item in this package.
I really like this class. It's 4 hours long.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta warn you, when you listen to this, take it slowly, because this whole entire class, I begin by teaching you how to do quantum remote viewing.
Hmm.
So that's the first hour, so that you can be a quantum healer. You already are. I just make it really easy for you to remember how to do that. And then we get into, all right, how do we work with infectious disease? Now, that's just one thing. You could take infectious disease out of there and replace it with just about anything. Quantum healing for cellular regeneration, quantum healing for my physical heart, quantum healing for my cat. Whatever you want to do, you could replace that. But this class gets you started with something that we're all really hyper familiar with at the moment, and gives you more clarity about how to work with what we know as disease. And this is going to change your concepts about how all this works. And I give you real living examples and real quality ways, step by step, how to do this. And you start with yourself. So if this really appeals to you around any sort of infectious disease, it's simply a methodology and a mindset shift that you can use to begin working with this. And notice I didn't say healing. I said working with it. That's one of the big mindset shifts, friends, that you're going to learn from this class, so that you can begin to do real healing, which is from the soul level on outwards.
Beautiful. All right, next we go into cultivating non-judgment, the art of psychic lenses.
So this is a book I wrote, and I've written a lot of books, but this one is probably one of my favorite books I ever wrote, because I'm combining anthropological theory again and esoteric concepts around psychic seeing. So those of you who really, really want to be able to see better, yet also want to be able to stop judging yourself and others, this is perfect for you. And if you want more compassion in your life, especially for you and your own self, then you need to understand what lenses that you're wearing all the time to look through the world and look at yourself. And I like this book because there's videos embedded in it. So it's interactive. It's an online book, and it's very beautiful. So there's interactive videos, so you can listen to me talk about each of these concepts. But it also has the writing. It's got a lot of light woven into it, and very clean step-by-step ways and little fun techniques. All this is fun. I never make anything too hard. I know it sounds very academic, but I really, really drill it down to its very fine, easy, step-by-step practical ways. It's something I happen to love and appreciate more than anything, is the little tiny minutia of being able to move forward in consciousness. So we're always using lenses, and they're made of lots of different things. And some of them you can use sometimes, and others you're going to say, nope, throwing that one away forever. But how do you know what you're doing? And how do you allow yourself to see reality as it really is in a more pure way without knowing anything? Well, this is how. It's very clear, nice step-by-step book that you can study and allow. You can print pieces out if you want, to be able to really understand how to see reality properly without painting or distorting it with your own trauma issues, conditioning, etc. And perhaps putting some love-colored glasses on sometimes and looking at yourself in the mirror a little bit too. So,
beautiful. That's beautiful. And we continue with the package. This is so jam-packed. Again, this is amazing. The next item, item 7, is compassionate communication, healing, and training.
so these are 2 classes. The first one is a healing. And the way that I do healing is pretty weird. It's different because basically I tell you the history of communication. And in knowing the history of comm and why it got so weird, you're healed by it. It's pretty cool. knowing what has happened to get you to this point can be very deeply healing. So that's what my healing is all about. And then I train you. I train you how to do some very specific ways of communicating that'll feel weird at first. But if you play with them, if you work with them, John and I have actually been doing it today. We've been mirroring each other. And that's a method of communication, but we did it seamlessly without it being weird. We honored what each other has to say. And there's a way to do it very cleanly. But this is going to be a game changer for you. If you're really tired of fighting with anybody around you, this is what you need to be looking at, and really get these concepts down in an easy way so you can heal this. Because as we move forward and we remember who we are, we're all going to need to really communicate from both that universal and galactic self and the human self in an effective way to be able to do what we're here to do, which is create the golden age.
Yeah, and I think this one's extremely important also, especially for everybody. But in our community, we hear so much, well, nobody gets what I'm thinking, or I'm so misunderstood, or, oh, I can't find community because this is so different. And it is about that compassionate communication. It is about the foundations of where it came from, the history, and that's, you just let go of the judgments and those binds that we are put ourselves in because of fear of some type of repercussion that doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. And then, Elizabeth, if you haven't given us enough, you've given us a 1-year subscription to the monthly community call.
We do this at the last Sunday of each month. And I like to come and just be with you and answer as many questions live as I can. And talk about what's going on that month, what just happened. And I get really personal, but I show you how to take the personal every time. This is my goal every time. We get personal, but then we raise it up to a universal level. And when we do that, then we're all in the mindset to do something really cool. We build a pillar of light every month. And we build it for the transmitting of intent and healing for whatever subject was most important at the time. And so this is something we do together, but I love that we get to, and I treasure it every month. I look forward to it more than anything.
That's wonderful. And finally, last and certainly not least, music from Bioluminescent.
So this one's not from me. This is from my husband. It's a gift to you. I asked him a long time ago. I said, would it be all right if we gifted people some of your music? And there's a reason why. He's able to create landscapes of consciousness with music.
Wow.
And this is something that you can travel to, go inward, to meditate, to find more joy, to pump more light into your household, make your plants grow better. I love it more than anything. I'm his super fan. I listen to his music every day, and I can't wait to share it with you.
Amazing, amazing. So this becoming Homo Luminous, this entire package, it's just, this is good. This is just so, I'm feeling like a sense of relief and like, oh, answers, and oh, transcendence, and oh, something that's meeting a knowingness or a familiarity that I have that I didn't know how to describe, and the expansion that happens in that through being met in that home that you talked about earlier. This is beautiful, y'all. It's $147 for this entire offer. It's not valued. It's valued more than $500, but okay.
It is. It's $1,000 at least. Yes.
It's like, Jesus. There's a 2-payment option on everybody. It's dive in with Elizabeth. It's just, there's so much coming through the transmission, and so many confirmations, transformations, illuminations, activations that are happening here. And again, the link's in the chat box, so you can click on the link. Super easy to check out. It'll probably take you 2 minutes, and you'll start receiving the downloads, and you'll be able to start working with this entire book of wisdom and activation. So again, the link's in the chat box, or go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com Elizabeth26. Thank you for this, Elizabeth. So amazing. And with that, Elizabeth, we promised live Q&A. Can we dive into that?
I'd love that.
Okay, so we're going to take live callers. There's a few people with their hands raised, and I'm going to start promoting you all to panelists. But the first question I'm going to take comes from Kat that she wrote into the chat. So Kat writes, tonight I had a parent-teacher conference, and my child's school psychologist has never met, and this is in quote, never met a child this disconnected from reality and hiding inside fantasy. Am I making my child's life experiences harder in the way I encourage her creativity and spiritual truth? And how can we support her better? Do you get the impression that this school official is off or on point? Thank you.
I like that because I'm a mom. And I'm also the oldest of 7 kids. And so I want you to understand what's happening. What is happening is not fantasy. This is what we call imagination. And first, dear Kat, you need to look inside yourself and understand that you were told that imagination is not real. That's not what's happened to your kid. Your kid actually is able to perceive all dimensions right now. And she's perceiving reality. What she needs to be allowed to do is perceive reality as it is, and also encourage her to learn how to focus her perception. So what we do is we don't tell kids that imagination isn't real, because it is. You're perceiving dimensions of reality. Unicorns are real. They live in the 4th dimension. I've pet one. They smell like candy. Just kidding. But this is the idea. If a kid can be able to perceive all these things, I mean, we're talking about a kid that was basically me. And what was really good is that I was allowed to have my imagination. I was allowed to express it in art and music and all these different things. And then I was shown that it was really good to hone my sight, my seeing, my perception, and understand, hey, these numbers are a really cool language that describes the universe. These letters and these words that you're going to learn how to read, they describe the universe. And in fact, there's people who've written books that you're really going to want to read because they describe the universe really well. And then you'll be able to really enjoy your imagination better. So instead of saying, well, you're disconnected from reality, we say you're perceiving reality as a whole, and you're a little bit lost because no one's guided you to focus in at certain times, at the right specific times, and hone in these specific abilities of reading, writing, and math that you really need to be able to navigate this reality. So just draw your attention into this dimension of reality when you're doing math. Draw your attention into this dimension of reality for reading and writing. And when you do that, all the other dimensions of reality come to support it. I didn't have problems with distraction because I literally could feel all the aspects of the dimensions supporting my learning to read in that moment, my learning how to do math, and I ended up being good at all of it. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to give your kid a chance to be the perceiver of reality, not say she's disconnected, she's not, but help her to hone her focus. That's the thing you can agree on with your person that you're working with, and say, don't say disconnected, don't say problematic.
Right.
We're just going to focus on the solution, which is focus itself. Let's hone on that and we'll practice.
Well, you're teaching them that new form of communication that's part of the special offer. It's compassionate communication. I mean, truly. And that compassionate communication is spoken through truth, not through separation.
Precisely.
It's through integrity, not divisiveness.
Well said.
So it's wonderful how it shows up. And I just bring that in for an emotional tone. Also for Kat to really resonate with, you can feel when you're speaking from that place, and it's powerful and it uplifts everybody. It
Oh,
uplifts
yes.
everybody. It's so wonderful. It's so good, Elizabeth. I love the way you describe this. And Kat, thank you for writing in. Let's go to a live caller now. Sherry Lou, let's get you to come on, get you to unmute. And if you want to start your video, that'd be great.
Okay, here I am. I'm in my bedroom. It's dark, but anyway, thank you so much for calling on me. And my intention is, Elizabeth, to know what source would like me to know now, right now. A lot of things are going on, and I would like to know how I could rewire some of my my brain chemistry, which you probably know what I'm referring to, so that I could be more relaxed, especially around my granddaughter and all. How do I put it? Without the obsessive trying to control my environment through my obsessive compulsive stuff that I have, which you're quite aware of. So if Source could just bring through what I would need to know now for me, for the highest and greatest good of all, I would appreciate that.
Of course. Good. So from the ground up, this is not the ground. The chemistry in your head is not the ground. The ground up, it has to be from the earth, Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get your actual bare feet on the planet. And I know that you do, but then you have to actually do some co-creative work here, right? So you ask the earth every day. And this would be like a method of sorts. So we get our bare feet on the planet, which causes an actual balanced electric circuit in the body, right? And we have this issue of OCD, so many people do. And what it is it's an attempt to control reality around you so that you can feel better on the inside. And the best way to heal that is from the inside out, not from the outside in. And although I do understand that allopathic medicine can help a lot of people, and it's really important to be able to allow that to be part of your smorgasbord of healing, what we're going to do is simply work with electricity in this matter. So we need a nice, clean electric circuit with the bare feet on the earth, the actual ground, not your bedroom, not the house, but the ground, the bare ground. Then you need to notice how it feels. Is there any energy running up or down your legs? And if there isn't, then you're not grounded. And so you should be able to feel it. You should be able to literally feel electrical energy moving through your body. We're not necessarily dealing with the spiritual matter so much, even though it ends up being that, of course, it's interconnected, but very physical one. And so when we can't feel it, that means the wires are fried, right? So we need to rewire, and we got to do it from the feet. So you work with then what we might call reflexology. You really need to work on the feet. You need to have someone, or do for yourself, a little bit of acupressure all over your feet and get your feet awake again. We wear these socks and shoes on concrete and in buildings, and we're not grounded. And taking all them off is the best thing you can do for your body. The best that you can, as much as possible. And then the second piece is to ask and learn how to listen to the planet and say, hey, Mother Earth, help me out here. I need some help. My body is not doing that great. She's more than happy to help you out. You have to ask. It's kind of like the angels can't really help you out unless you ask them. God's not really going to notice what you need or act on it until you ask. That's the intent with the willingness part. So if you're willing to get grounded and willing to ask for this to be rewired, start from your feet. That's the ground. And then it's going to begin to move up your legs, and you'll start to feel energy up through your body, and it'll continue to move and move and move until you feel it move all the way up your legs through into your brain. That's when the brain begins to change, partly because of electromagnetics, but also because of bacteria and all of the dynamics they have together in creating that chemistry in the first place. So it's not necessarily a chemistry problem. The chemistry problem can be addressed in many ways, but let's start from the ground. So go there first. Work with your feet instead of your brain right now.
Okay, I can do that. And how will I know what the electric feels like coming up my legs? I'm not sure
It
how to know
literally
that.
tingles.
It will tingle?
Yeah, it tingles.
Oh, because I haven't felt that before.
Me neither. until I
Standing
started
on the
working
ground.
it.
Standing on the ground. It's just coral rock basically here. So I'll be standing on little, it's hard to walk on it, but I can be standing on it.
Yeah, get on
And,
grass or sand near the ocean. That'll work.
okay, yeah, I can do that.
Wet sand's even better.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Give it a
I
shot.
really, thank you.
All right, Shirley, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Hey, God, I can't believe we're in an hour at 90 minutes already. I want to ask you, well, before I ask you, I want to remind you all of the special offer. Again, the links, April's going to type in the chat box one more time. And I know you all are feeling Elizabeth. I know I am. And what's coming through. This is just a fascinating conversation. Cheryl is writing, she had a session with you a week ago, and it's healed 40-year addiction. Amazing. Congratulations, Cheryl. Yeah, Elizabeth Fork is
Cheryl did the work. She
yeah.
was willing.
Yeah, you
Wants
guys.
to be home.
But again, that's a beautiful testament of the type of quality you're going to receive in the special offer. So it's wonderful. So the link again is in the chat box. April's gonna, she just typed it in a minute ago. So find it there, $147, 2 payment options. And of course, we're going to run the replay of the call for the rest of the week. Elizabeth, I want to take one more caller, but before, and I'm going to end with the caller, but before we do that, I want to ask you, what is it that we can do and to be as aligned as we can with the solstice of the 1221 gateway coming up? To
I want you to know what I want you to know what we're looking at here. Like, I've said this before and it's still true. We're all on the edge. There is nobody ahead of us. We're all lined up together. There's nobody behind us. There's nobody ahead of us. We're it. You're the leader now of your own self. There's nobody to follow. Well, we're going to learn from each other. But what we're looking at is equanimity. And it's the greatest sifting of consciousness that's ever taken place in this galaxy, perhaps beyond. We're looking at equanimity. What we haven't realized is that we're doing it right now. And now we're looking around and saying, well, there's nobody behind me. There's nobody ahead of me. There's nobody to follow. There's nobody following. And some folks are like, nope, this isn't for me. And others are completely aware that this is something, they don't know what it is because they've never experienced it before. And if you're interested in taking advantage of and aligning with what's happening, be ready for equanimity, consent, unconditional love, and universal compassion to lead the way. And know those things are not easy at all. But those are the things we've learned after 500,000 years of craziness here we came up with our own templates, and those are the 4 that we're going to provide to the galaxy. Human beings, Homo luminous, will provide consent, equanimity, unconditional love, and universal compassion. And this is going to change everything. That's what you need to align with. Find it in you, find it for yourself, and you'll be right on your way.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Elizabeth. And the last call, I want to call on all of y'all. You know, that's always the case. But Jill, I want to call on you today. How are you? And Jill Lyon.
Thank you, John. I'm losing my words. I had to write down my question because I had a feeling, but my particles got so excited meeting you. So I'm using your language just to cross that rainbow bridge. And I'm so glad you asked the question about the solstice, John, because I can just, hearing the two of your discussion, I could feel the energy, but now it gives me a context, which I'm really thankful for. So anything more you want to share about that, or if anything about me pops that I need to know about me for this time, I would love that. Whatever feels right around that.
Thank you. If I was there, I'd hold your hand. And I'd tell you, thank you for coming. We really need you right now. You've always been a commander of the elements. You need to remember how to do that again. You've already been doing it, but there's much, much more to it. There's an awakening of commanders, I've noticed. Been doing some sessions over the past couple of months, and I'll always find these patterns. And one of them over the past few weeks has been, everybody I've been doing sessions for are all commanders. They were commanders from other experiences and galactic level commanders. And it'd be like back to back, like, wow, I just talked to 5 commanders today. This is nuts. And they're all remembering. The other piece is, you're not just a commander of the elements. And what does that mean, really? It's that, what does a commander really do? A commander doesn't order people around. They delegate. That's different than ordering. And secondly, a commander is a co-creator, because they know that the warriors of water and lightning, the warriors of the crystalline, the warriors of fire, that all of these beautiful beings of consciousness, that they do want to help, but they need to do it in a very efficient and effective way. And the commander can see it from above and say, lightning needs to be here, and the water needs to flow here, and the fire needs to cleanse here, and then regrow with the template of the earth. Like John was saying, these massive pyramids coming out. This is the living template of power, of life, of nature coming forth. This is the elements who can literally speak, who are conscious, who are asking, what can we do for the human experiment as we move into new humanity? So I'd say thank you for that. And I'd also encourage you to bring through that ability to heal with these elements. What does water do? Water is memory. When we drink water, we're drinking the memory of this planet, but we're also drinking the memory of the planet from which this planet came from. This planet did not evolve here. And that's a wild thing to say. Go read the Ark of a Million Years. You'll know what I'm talking about. The primordial waters is a place. It's a planet. She's alive and she has memory of a massive beyond galactic memory. We're drinking that. How does that work in the body? These are the memories that you're going to bring through, Jill, as a methodology. And what do we use fire for? What do we really use wood for? What's that all about? The elements of reality are not what we see in front of us. Water is memory. Wood is a container. Stone and crystals are stability. Fire is transmutation. Those are the elements of reality, and those can create great healing and reconciliation between us humans who've thought that we were separate from these things. And of course, all the elements of the 3D and all the other dimensions. So that's what's on the table. It's you remembering these two pieces and combining them in a new way in a state of equanimity with those elements. And that's what is here for you now to fully express however you might. And even Jill, even if you don't tell anybody about it, if you write it down, if you express it in artwork, if you make a song about it, whatever, it becomes available in consciousness and the act is available and it's done. So you don't have to teach a big class of 2,000 people how to do all this stuff or command the elements and then people know about it. You just do it. And by doing it, it's available in all consciousness, and you can trust that because you'll watch it come back around. So you can see it's true. So that's what I see for you right now.
So
Wow.
beautiful.
Goosebump time. Wow.
Goosebumps. Elizabeth, I'm just smiling because it's taken me to this awareness that I want to share with everybody on the call. And Jill, you're inspiring it as I look at you. And of course I've known this, but it's just coming up as something to be shared. Jill, and I'm going to answer for you because of timing, but Jill, I can tell you one thing that you absolutely know, and this goes for everybody on this call, is that you love. I can see it's just written all over your energy. It's like, it is undeniable. And from that knowing, these questions that come in doubts, or these questions that come from, I haven't experienced this yet, the answers come from, and the experiences, really not the answers, but the experiences of what's evolving next come from that baseline of love who you be. And so don't start your questions with doubt is my invitation to you, but start it with the knowing that the question is coming from the foundation of your love. And from there, you empower yourself rather than diminish this commander that you are, the one that knows that she's acting in love. So beautiful. Thank you for bringing forward that energy so I can share that here for everybody, for all the commanders on this call. My God. What an amazing, beautiful freaking call, right? So much. This has been, this one's worth listening to quite a few times over. Y'all come back, the replay will be sent out a little bit later tonight. You can always access replays by going to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/replay. And of course, Elizabeth's special offer, going deeper into you and Elizabeth and being in this wave with Elizabeth exclusively and her husband through the music, which sounds amazing. It's in the special offer. The link again is in the chat box. And Elizabeth, again, thank you so much. You're just, you're speaking to me in just such beautiful ways right now. It's just so resonant, and so grateful to have you here and for what you're doing.
Thank you, John. It's really, truly been fun to be with you. And I love how pure this friendship is, how real, how true and clear you are. It really shows that the work that we do works so deeply, and we've known each other for some years now.
Yeah.
And the changes you and I see in each other every time are always so clear and astounding. And I see it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an honor. And thank you for seeing me. Love you. I love you guys. And look forward to seeing you on the next call. Y'all have a great evening, great day, wherever you may be. And just know you are loved and are loved. Good night.